And with me, this is an evening with Professor John Akec, the Vice Chancellor of the University of Juba, who is also a trained engineer and also someone who participates in the public discourse in this country and who is also an opinion shaper. Professor John Akec is also the chairperson of the National Communication Authority, the main body that regulates telecommunication and communication in general in this country. So he occupies these two roles. And today we're talking about innovation and education in the 21st century. That's kind of the over theme. But we'll also delve into areas of robotics, systems, and AI, artificial intelligence. I don't know if we'll be able to exhaust all of it. The format of this discussion today will have three formats, three kind of sections. First, we'll talk about his life, and then we'll talk about his profession, where he reflects on this. And I would be very selfish if I don't talk about the university itself and what is happening there, and then we'll take questions. Professor, welcome.
Thank you for hosting me.
Yeah. I would probably like to start by kind of like, how do you describe yourself? I've just said a lot about it, but when someone asks you, like, how do you describe yourself?
Well, I think this is a difficult question. I'm just me.
Yeah.
And what I do and what I like.
And what is the you part, and what do you do and what do you like?
Yes, I'm a human being in space, and have some function in society, have some experience, past experience, including the kind of education that I had.
And you raise the mic a bit.
Yeah. Including the kind of education I had and the experience I had since childhood. I witnessed the first war, in the first Civil War. I was a child. I had, bombs flying at night, people being killed. There was peace for 10 years. I grew up in that period. I had my education. Primary, I completed it. Secondary, I completed it. I remember running barefooted at the signing of agreement to an airstrip down in Gogrial.
That's the Addis Ababa agreement?
Yeah. So we were young kids, and I saw General Lagon Kuala Mom coming, and then after signing agreement, giving us hope. And we had the autonomous government here. I remember one point I came here to collect my certificate and to apply for a scholarship to Egypt in case I don't get admitted to university. So that was my visit to I think must have been around 79. To Juba.
That's the first time you stepped into Juba?
Yeah, 79, and then I went back. In 1980, I was admitted in Jazeera University, and I accepted that. So all this shapes my experience. So I've been outside my country. I lived as a refugee, combining education but also safety for myself and my family. We have a country that came out as a result of the struggle. I came back, playing my role, going back to University of Juba because I was staff before I left. That's a long story. And I'm trying to basically, play my bits. I'm a member of society and try to make a difference.
You grew up in a very different era. How was it? How was it growing up? You're talking about running barefoot in Gogrial and witnessing the two wars, applying for scholarship. What is the thing that you can tell us that probably some of us here cannot picture right now?
I would say, I live in eras, not just the eras, because things actually change. You can imagine the era where the South Sudan was under the Sudanese army occupation. The schools were in Arabic. Um, we had to sing national anthem, Sudan. We had we played games at festivities during the whereby I remember very well that you have have people actually having guns and fighting bad guys. So some would be Sudan army and some would be the Nyanya, the bad guys, and these are South Sudanese. So you really get to think that those in the bush are bad guys.
So
that is a kind of indoctrination that was going on. And then, yes, agreement signed. Yes, here is Lago, and General Kuala Mom. Yes, this is freedom. We couldn't understand. A Northern Sudanese commissioner withdraw. A South Sudanese commissioner comes in. One by one, you have the traders are getting fewer. Before, everything from police to fire brigade to the shops was a different. So that was something. So I think you haven't seen that. So after the Sabab agreement, I think mostly South Sudan was in the hands of South Sudanese, but politically it was still under the North after the Sababa, and then you had the 1983 SPLM war. I think, still in university. I remember.
But you're in the University of Al Jazeera?
I was in Jazeera, yes.
And just for people who don't know how to situate geography, when we're talking about Al Jazeera, that is in Sudan.
Yes, it's about 200 miles south of Khartoum, especially Madani.
Yeah.
Madani was actually the second most important city in Sudan, because at that time, before the production of oil, Al Jazeera's scheme was, because Sudan was exporting cotton, and Al Jazeera was the most rich area. If you like, it's the Paluch and Bentiu of today, where all the eyes were there, with the exception because the Paluch is not really developed. If you go to Paluch, where oil is actually produced, and they are supposed to get 3%, you find people living in huts, and schools are really in bad shape. I went there in 2013, before the war, a few months before the war. But you go to Maban, which is not getting 3%. You find health service, you find schools, better schools, of course, they are done by NGOs. You find kids in uniform. You find the radio is working. So what is oil doing? I'm now drifting a little bit.
You're drifting a bit. I would like to come back the days. Take me to the days of University of Al Jazeera. So you went there to study what?
Yes, I went to study science and technology, which was Faculty of Science and Technology. This was my second attempt. I started from Mumbai in '79. I applied. Jazeera University was my choice, was one of the choices, and Khartoum was. There were very few universities. So I couldn't make it the first time because my application form was never, at that time, you actually have to send application form to Khartoum.
Send it physically?
I mean, the school can do that, or you can actually ask somebody to go and drop it at the admission office. The school, basically, those who left their application forms actually missed out that year because they were not sent. And when the admission came out, end of '79, my name was not read. Names would have to be read. I had to travel to Khartoum. And they would say, yes, you have a boxing that can take you to Jazeera, but I think we couldn't find your application form. So what shall I do now? There was nothing called second admission. If you miss the boat, then you wait for the whole year. And that was what I did. And, so I actually applied the second year, and after missing 1 year, and then I made it.
So you made it then. How many years did you spend in the
5 years.
5 years?
Yeah. So the faculty was called Faculty of Science and Technology, and you could do applied physics, electronics and instrumentation, or you do applied chemistry and chemical technology, or you could do food science and technology, or you could do textile. And the college itself was quite new, and at some point the students rebelled. They said, "What is it going to? Am I going to be? What is the technologies?" So there was a lot of issues, and as we speak, the school where I actually graduated from is now a school of engineering, faculty of engineering, because the students rebelled against. So it was changed after that
to just fit.
to be plain engineering.
When was the first time you had an encounter with a computer and the way computer was known?
I think must have been in my third year, and you are really talking about 83 or thereabout, when I was, we were writing software on basic language at that time, on Apple machines, basically, and the interface was not really as sophisticated like you now. You have click and there was not even at that time mouse was not really yet, although it's the same Steve Jobs, and that's why I'm saying I lived through errors. Steve Jobs was a young man at the same time. Those of Bill Gates were young when they were actually doing establishing. Windows came a few years later. I can't remember exactly, but the first computers that were used at universities were Apple computers. They were a little bit bulky, with blinking screen. The cursor you find at the corner, and it was command control. Basically, you write a command to do something for you. So you write that command, then it will find your file, a text file. You give it a name, and then you can say compile. You give it a name. That one, then it goes and reads it.
So, I mean, this is a very pioneering era in so many fields, in so many ways. How did you end up then finding your way out of that job that you're doing into okay, I need to go for further studies now?
Yes, I think after I finished, I think I also taught in Jazeera as teaching assistant.
Yeah.
I was based in Khartoum, but coming to weekend to come, Saturday and Sunday to Jazeera, and I was actually giving lab demonstrations. My idea was to actually get a job there as TA, so that I get training opportunities. At that time, postgraduate opportunities were very, very limited, and one way of actually getting postgraduate studies was to get a post in university and wait for a chance to do for a scholarship. So I was trying to keep in touch, but I could not get the job, and that's a long story. And I was advised by some of my colleagues to come to Juba here. So after 2 years, and I was working in a hospital, I decided to apply to University of Juba. There was no engineering, and but I was teaching Department of Physics in the School of Natural Resources at the end of '87. That was when, and I remember very well. I would teach things like electronics to education students, high classes and physics. Teach physics in first year. Basically, I was teaching mechanics to the first years, and every first year that I came there, I taught them mechanics. I taught electronics to higher classes, and that kind of thing. So,
was this thing paying money? Was it bringing good money by then?
I don't think it was for money. It was the salaries were low, the TA I remember was around £200 begin with, and then it was 500 pounds, and we had to go to Khartoum.
Just give me a picture. I don't know, I don't understand 500 pounds, but what will that buy?
Actually, you can buy it in 2 days.
You can spend it in 3 days.
Yes. And then you spend the rest of the time borrowing for it. I don't know how. But also you try to generate additional income. I remember very well teaching I taught in Komboni Secondary School here in Kator. I remember some of them went to universities, and they became big people. I taught them physics, and I think I was paid 200 pounds because it was just one. I don't know how often, but that was what I got. But I remember in Kator, they used to have a laboratory. And I was able actually to connect the equipment there, use there, because got the equipment connected and have the experiment. And there was a Catholic father who was actually teaching. He was on holiday. He was on sick leave in Italy, and whether his name was Latayi, I can't remember. But every South Sudanese who taught physics never actually got that equipment working. So they said, he's like Father Litagi, he's actually being able to get the experiment working, and we are taking measurements. So
that kind of also opened up
yes.
up some doors and stuff like that.
But also in 89, sadly, we had to pack, around 88, Juba was a ghost city. Basically, if you come to Juba town here, you find very few shops, with just the traders sitting in front. There is no business actually going on. Nyakron was basically a no-man land. Nyakron, if you stand at the staff club now, there was no fence. You look down, you see Nyakron is just a bush.
This whole Nyakron, that is now occupied.
But it was active before. South Sudan went through serious pain. Basically, after the Kokora, people packed. The South Sudan was divided. So instead of being a busy city, imagine now if they tell us everybody goes home, some of us will be going in different directions, and you will have very little audience, from your own county looking, talking to you, and this place will not be very interesting. That's what happened to Juba. Juba, from a very cosmopolitan city, which I saw in '79, when I came back in '87, it was a ghost city. And I remember the White House. There was a restaurant, just at the corner there near the dispensary. You come and you eat nice food, but actually there is nobody in restaurant, So business-wise, it wasn't doing very well. But in '89 now we had not only that was okay, but then war was getting closer to Juba. And I remember Mitch, jet fighters actually flying overhead all the time, and people going outside Juba, the army, coming back, bringing back their casualties, and they go to Kiada, and every time there were wars and there was anger. So in '89 we packed, we left, we went to Khartoum.
You went to Khartoum, but
the university.
The whole university. The whole university was shifted.
Was shifted to Khartoum.
And I think probably most of the students also.
Yes, everybody left. There is no way,
Yeah.
And but in Khartoum also, as teaching assistant, I also taught in Maridi, or secondary school. It was a displaced students in secondary school.
Yeah.
So I taught mathematics there, sometimes teaching additional math, and being paid by NGOs, which was more than my salary.
So being paid in the high school was more than the university?
In the evening, that was 500, and that one were paid 900. And so you could go to Amarat, somewhere else. Maybe when you get the salary, you can afford to buy chicken for that day. Then the rest of the day you are eating.
When you are not eating chicken, what were you eating?
Huh?
When you are not eating that chicken, what were you eating?
Full and all kind of things. If you get it.
but how will you reconcile the situation of your life? You're this educated engineer, whatever, and your pocket is reflecting something else. What does that make you feel by then?
Well, there is no reference point, you know.
Or everyone was doing that?
Well, no, you don't have a reference. You know, you guys now, some of you live in East Africa. They have been, you know, some have gone to China, you know, so you can compare, you know, how you are doing, and so on. So that was survival, basically.
So, and I think by then, the outside, the struggle was going, the war and everything else. So now you are at this crossroads now, and you're trying, you again revive your dream of going for further studies, or you attempt again?
Yes, of course, STA in 1990, my chance came.
Okay.
So I got a British Council scholarship, and to go to University of Cardiff to do electronics engineering, and so on. So that is you know, an interesting story. First of all, I actually said I want to do radiation physics in University of London, and I got admitted. And I was doing it because I have to choose. I was in Department of Physics. And if you have to be nominated, you have to choose something that relevant. So I brought them an admission from University of London. Now, 2 months before my travel to UK, British Council wrote to me. They said, do you have any change of mind? Because they see that actually my degree is more in electronics, and what am I doing with radiation physics? And that was something I did strategically to be relevant. So at the British Council, I went there and I filled in the form, and I said I can do electronics in Cardiff or Durham.
but inside the university, you wow them.
Of course, young people are very tactical and strategic, isn't it? You have to maneuver your way. I can remember. I imagine all of you how you are negotiating your way through life and capturing opportunities. So that's what I did. And of course, in September, or the message came in and said, you are going to Cardiff, and I found myself. I remember exactly arriving London on 26th of September 1990, and I remember exactly taking a train the following day on 27th to go to Cardiff.
Was this your first time outside the continent?
Yes, I think so. Yeah. So that was it, and I spent 2 years there, and then I look a second year also. It was almost the same. So I was like, but the other thing that didn't work with me, anybody who has studied electronics will know that you can have the transistor, a 3-terminal transistor, and you can analyze it. Common base, common emitter, common collector, and also you can vary the base voltage that will generate different behavior. You can change this one. Now, so you can spend a lot of time looking at a small scale, minute thing. That's okay. But for me, I always want to see a bigger picture.
I mean, you went for radiation and stuff like that at the
I
start.
want to see a bigger picture. I wanted to, I want to actually hook up the transistor to the motor and let the motor connect something and connect it to computer. That is what I wanted. Didn't want to spend my life, looking and studying transistor.
So what did you do?
Yeah. So what happened is that I wanted to shift to Manchester University, but my to go and do something in information technology and instrumentation at what they call UMIS. It was a very good institution, and I was asked by my supervisor, the advisor in the British Council, say why. I said, you know what? I was coming to do instrumentation, but instrumentation is not here because there was instrumentation in the catalog of University of Cardiff. I said, I want to shift because this is what, look here, I showed them. Sometimes luck, I should come with you. So she said, but why don't you look around here? Because that's money leaving University of Cardiff, is a Welsh university, going to English university. And my advisor was a Welsh. She obviously would like, that piece of their cake, because their university will get the money. So why don't you look around here? I said, okay. I went around. In fact, there was another degree, systems engineering, which you can do in 1 year. A lot of people, British students, were doing it. And every time I was going to the class, what's, arms and they're moving the lab there. So my eyes were like that. And then it's called, which is exactly, I found that to do it, you need to know computing, you need to do electronics, you need to know control engineering, you need to understand a bit of mechanical engineering, integrate. So robots actually is a 10 different technologies all combined together: computing, electronics, and mechanical, and software. So my advisor said, pick one. So I said, I think I'll pick one.
I want those robots there.
I want systems engineering. So, within the same school. So I was transferred and I was given a diploma in electronic engineering for first year, and then an MSc in systems engineering for the other one. So I ended up walking away with 2 degrees basically. And
you really smarted your way through everyone.
So are all the young men, and women.
So then you finished that and you decided to work in the UK or?
Yes, of course, that was 1992.
Yeah.
And when I was writing my thesis, and coming from the hospital, after delivering our daughter, was delivered. So you can imagine an MSc student with a child being born, and you still need to submit
the thesis.
The thesis. So I will come. My church helped us. Brought my wife.
But that means your daughter. That means your daughter was or is British by that, or how does it work?
Well, that's a different thing.
Yeah.
Of course, most of the kids of South Sudanese eventually ended up actually having the citizenship, because after that, when I left, I came to London with the intention of leaving, coming back. Now everybody in London was telling me, "Where are you going?" I said, "I'm going back to do what?" This is 92, and things were really bad. So I said to go and teach back in the University of Juba. I can't live here. A lot of people were there. A lot of people were jobless. Some of them went there to do master degree. They hung around and they became refugees. I said, no, I don't like that kind of life. And no matter what they tried, I refused. And I asked to be sent a ticket and to come back with my wife. The ticket delayed. And then one of colleagues from university actually escaped for 3 months. And he was going to do English course, and he said, tell him, is he mad? There was the Arabization. They said the University of Juba is being Arabized, and you are going to go back to teach physics and electronics in Arabic. And that was the thing that really angered me. And that one was the thing that, and I changed my mind, that if I'm going to teach this science in Arabic, I'm not going. So I actually became a refugee.
You became a refugee in the UK.
So there's no other way. You went on a scholar, but if you want to stay longer, you have to say why. And we were granted the status, and then my first job was to work with University of Central England. Is a polytechnic. You can say it's a technical university. Most of the work is practical, and on an industrial project for about 14 months. And when I finished that, then I got a job basically doing an industrial project, and that's where from my master degree. I did my master degree in robotics, looking at things like neural network control. That's my, so I had to design a monitoring system for aluminum spot welding, using neural network.
What is a neural network?
Of course, neural network is family of, when we come to talk about AI, there are technologies associated with that actually allows us to do AI. Neural network basically is is an application which is based on the brain and the network. Now, our brain is actually, when people look at it, is actually a mesh, okay, of interconnected network. And they found that actually when this neuron connecting one another is the way that information is passed around and is processed through this interconnection. And one of the things that actually research found was that when you learn, the more you learn, and especially like language, so those with much network, the more intense you have network, the more ability you are able to process information. And in fact, some of the research show that girls mature quicker, their reasoning develop quicker than boys. And one of the things that they found was that girls at very early age, they have, more interconnected, neurons, in their brains. Now, the neural network is something you can train, like, So using a computer analogy of the internet, basically what you have is a matrix with weights in it. So the numbers inside the matrix are weight. The vertical, the what you call the vector outside the matrix.
I hope my audience is still with me.
Actually is output and input.
Yeah.
Now we are doing that. Now, if you change those matrices, the weight, you teach it, so what happened? You show it, this is the thing to, suppose you want a computer model that will be able to predict the rain or predict occurrence of an earthquake. So now, to know that the rain is coming, you need to see the direction of the wind, the intensity of the wind, the speed of the clouds. If there's a way you can measure this. Now, if you have a data about when the wind is blowing this much and then the clouds are behaving that much, it rains that much. If it is this, it doesn't rain. Now, if you have the data in the past or a data to tell you that the share prices, okay, actually the share prices that are being sold change with different conditions in the market, and you have that data. If you have that data and you give it to the neural network, and the neural network adjusts itself, then it will actually be able to learn and be able to predict something new.
How do you account for anomalies in such a thing?
The idea of anomalies is that, of course, anomalies are noise. These are things that, they will be actually smoothed out, that noise. So, and of course, you can also add noise to be able to do that. So it learned that.
So now, this is like very complex and awesome stuff. My question to you, has your salary changed from that 500 pounds in Sudan? Now you're here in this. Has the standard of living changed by now engaging in this kind of work in the UK?
Of course, in the UK is different.
Yeah.
It's still, I was employed by that as a research assistant. There was a senior researcher, professor, and my salary was basically still small. Yeah, it was still small. And I moved from London, where my family was, to Birmingham. The job was in Birmingham. I rented a new house. I have one daughter to look at. She's becoming like 10 months, or by the time, or or 1 year actually when we moved. So I got that salary, and most of it I spent it on the furnitures, because that was my first. Imagine you get a house, a refugee, you get a house empty. There is not even a carpet on it, and you have to get the carpet, get the chairs. Even sometimes you borrow, because there, if you are working, you can actually have high purchase. Some of the things you can actually do there and pay them. If you have a salary, the shop will say, okay, how much you have. So I bought setters by borrowing and paying. So yes, I think, enough is very rare to get.
So it's just, but it's also starting.
It depends on your context.
Yeah. So I would, because of our time, I really want to zoom a bit and kind of like looking at this, kind of like the journey from your life, from starting in South Sudan and all this. What do you think? Like by the time now you have a family, you're earning, you're studying. What are the key lessons? What are the key lessons from all these transitions until you reach that time?
So you learn a lot of lessons: problem solving,
and
creativity, but you saw that teamwork. When I went to UK, one of the things that I found was when you have been given a problem together to solve it as a team, I found that common problem solving, you have to join up. I can see now, already it is here now, you are doing it. You have different colleagues doing different things, and you have your own role, and everybody playing their part. But in our education system, it wasn't there.
So it doesn't incentivize that.
Yeah, well, it's not. It has not been built into it from early age. That you have to work as a team to solve a problem, and that can actually affect people at different level, including in the government itself. If people do not know how to work as a team, including cooperation between institutions, it will not work, including collaboration between different companies. Suppose you have your own company and you ask your colleague that you have a better idea, and we are going to talk about innovation, but at the center of innovation is different people with different ability coming together, playing to their parts. One of them is a good salesman. The other one is really good at coding. And the other one is a weird mathematician, So you get them with different things to bring on the table. And then you have your own company and you solve the problem. But if you are one person, you don't. So these are some of the things that I have learned. Somebody said, myself, I try to be entrepreneur here. I have 3 companies which have not been functioning. And I have serious problem finding finance. I have serious problem finding partners who have money. I have idea. Others have money, but they don't have ideas.
Do you think a lot of people here have money and don't have ideas?
I wouldn't generalize. But as an entrepreneur who tried to do things, I found that I could not. Ideas and money don't come together. Some of our business people come to me and they said, give me a space here. I want to sell furniture. Or can we use that space there to actually, of university, we ran it, to have a petrol station. I told them that there's no shortage of furniture shop. There's no shortage of fuel stations. But there is shortage of hostels. For God's sake, there is a space there. Let us team up together. You bring your money, you build hostels, the student will move in. The people coming from the states, they outside Juba, they want their daughters and sons to be safe. They can actually pay for that. And within years, you will be able to get your return back. And they are not doing that. These are South Sudanese.
Why are they not receptive to the idea?
I would not speak on their behalf. And what I'm saying here is a culture. And as I was coming along the way, there is a book that I started to read, in London, but been busy reading it. It's called 0 to 1 by Peter Thiel.
Yeah, yeah.
And he talks about venture capitalism. Now, the problem you have as a young entrepreneur, you have idea. And you start providing service. And the service in demand. But if you want to really grow, you will find challenge because you need money to grow.
That's a problem that is very close to my heart, because I've tried to raise money here, and one of the times that you find a lot of our people want to invest in things which are very clear. Did you get a contract from Nilepet? Yes. How much money do you need? I need 500,000. And then government will pay you next week. They want to do that. Okay, let's get this land, build a hotel. But once you start to tell them about the service business, there is a complexity. I find like it's very hard to sell that. People have a lot of money in the houses and a lot of money in the bank, but it's anything that is outside what is being done right now, the reception is very low.
Yes, but even I know somebody was saying here, is also interested in economics. I'm interested in economics as well. The hotel market now is being saturated, basically. Yep. So it's no longer competitive. People have been spread thinly. The customers have been spread. So because everybody wants to do hotel business, because you are going to have workshops there, government money, NGOs money, okay, coming to you week by week, and you sell food to all these delegates that come from the states, and they eat and they sleep. But I see that it becoming seasonal now. In December, there were lots of workshops all over the place.
People need to ban the budget.
Because I think so. But it's very quiet now in January. It's very quiet, and I go to some of these hotels and I say, "What's happening?" And you see the waiters, in the corner, very silent. I say, "What is going on?" So I'm very curious to know what's going on. But I know they are in the deep, basically. So the idea of hotels have been oversold, I think, and there are too many hotels. Some are being built in residential areas. Spaces that would have been, for the lungs of the city are being swallowed by large fences and hotels. I think that's a problem. We need spaces, public parks. We need them so that if you are really fed up with life, you can go there to this public park and be able to see somebody running, or kids, playing, a tennis here, and then get relaxed. I think there's a lot of work to be done, and I'm happy that there are a lot of young people trying to solve these problems.
I think a lot of them will be engaging with you in questions. How are you preparing your students to solve these problems? And I think that's a question that, a lot of people are critical of the students in general. They feel like, the job market is saying that they come out there, they are not ready. People saying that there are mismatch between the education that they're getting and what the market is asking. And the competition is so high from foreign workforce that is experienced, educated. We're also, we are supposed to join the East African community. The movement of labor has not, I don't know if we signed it or not, but there is a lot that is coming, and our market will be awash with different skills. How are you training your students to face this?
I think I'm really struggling to provide them with basic education, just to cover the curriculum. And the reason is that we have not reviewed the curricula. We have not reviewed them that much, and it's to do with the building the university itself, building the infrastructure, establishing new courses, new schools that are needed, equipping laboratories, because the students don't have the spaces to do actually, even if you have, we have cases where a lab equipment, electrical and mechanical equipment is stayed from 2009 in the stores.
Wow.
Because there is nowhere to install it. And until we are able to convert a dilapidated place, for those is supposed to be where students could do their activities near the eastern gate, the students area, where there are trees and fallen. So we converted one of the buildings into a mechanical engineering lab, and we're able to remove those equipment and install them. And until last week, we're still now trying to connect the power, because some of these machines are heavy. They need a lot of power. They need a special line, not a normal line, a special line, from the transformer direct to them. Some of them, are really. So that is the kind. It's just really what we have is at really basic level at the moment. So I would not say we reach the point where we can say we are changing things. However, you can see the students around here. From some of them are graduates, and some of them are actually still in their final year or in the middle year. I think education happens everywhere. Now, what are they doing here? They are building their soft skills. And those are the things that they need to relate and connect to others.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I would, because of our time, I would like to open it up for questions. And in case I have other things, I will also add it.
Okay, my name is Ouiti Adrian, and I am a technologist. I recently graduated from the University of London in innovation with international technology management. I am a technology enthusiast, like the professor here, and I'd like to, of course, discuss something very relevant, and that is the relation of artificial intelligence. The professor spoke about something very interesting called the Neuralink.
Neural network?
Neural network, sorry. And how many of you know somebody called Elon Musk? Yeah. Recently, and it's inspiring that you were looking at this early on. And Elon Musk now wants to launch a computer chip to put in the brain. This computer chip will be able to control the mental cognition of a robot. So these are things not in movies anymore, but in reality. So my question now to the professor is, how do you see innovation in this region for the next 5 to 20 years? What key sectors do you think are important to move into? Because as Nelson alluded to, we are going to enter the world of digitalization. Now, this means that the physical existence we are in now will not be here. That is why things like metaverse, Facebook want to create, as they say, augmented reality. So my question is to the professor, what do you see in these type of new technologies, and what is your opinion for your students? Thank you once again, Professor.
I have just a simple question. I think it will be relevant to our discussion. I want to ask about our education foundation. When we look at our country, South Sudan, we are actually crawling from the very worst stage, and we are trying to develop. When we look at the foundation right from the primary, secondary, up to where we are, there are a lot of things that need to be actually changed. You look at them, there's no computer system in the secondary school. Even in a university, some of us here, you find someone trying to fidget with Microsoft, just Word, not to talk about other sophisticated things. So when we talk about education system, how do you look at our curriculum and education development? Maybe how do you think our education growth will be for the next 10 years or so in regard to innovation? Thank you.
I would like to appreciate Mr. Nelson for inviting Professor Akec to share with us this evening the insights of his profession and what he does for the country. Prof, my question is going to be very precise in the interest of time. I've been made to think that your earlier contact with medical profession as a biomedical engineer might have shaped the way you see medical care and healthcare services being delivered in the country. And you've been so much critical about the healthcare system delivery, in which you have been so much stating views that you feel healthcare is not adequate in the country. How best do you think we can be able to shape this healthcare system through education?
The last to then the first is stuck, first come, last out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, I said in University of Yazira, I was very academic. I was the top of my class all the time, getting a lot of A's. So I did that very well. But also, I was interested in society, so I started to produce a newspaper called Echo, and I wrote it in Arabic. And until I went to fourth year or third year, when it actually became too much for me because of the academic load. So that was my contribution. I took part in debates. But I would not spend the whole day, on the debate. But, during the break, I would have a view, like I still have the view now today. We also tried with a group of colleagues to establish the national, African National Congress towards the end. But we did not succeed because there was no big support from my colleagues, the South Sudanese. Most South Sudanese wanted to have South Sudanese Student Association. And in fact, when the Mary fell, they took part in that. And I formed African National Congress. And because I differed with the independence students, because I insisted, and also I had a tilt to actually collaborate with the Communist Party, the independents were more towards the Islamic side, and it wasn't clear what was their color. They decided not to collaborate me. So when to help with, so eventually we were not part of the national alliance that was there. So when people went to Medellin, African National Congress was not, But after I left, National African Congress was actually formed and became a functioning body, but it didn't pick up. So that was my contribution to politics at that level. With health services, yes, I think all of us, even though I work in hospital before, I think all of us use health services. And education and health and waste management, and transportations and so on. These are some of the services that every citizen needs, and especially health and education are extremely important. I don't think that it's only about education. We are producing a good number of medical doctors every year, and it's not enough. But actually, there are more than whatever we have ever had before. And yet, if you compare Juba Teaching Hospital in the 80s and 90s, you'll find that the health services have deteriorated. So it's nothing to do with the human resource. It's to do with the organization itself, the organization and the policy, and then making resources available. Now, if you want to make resources available, it means you pay health professionals well, It means when somebody goes to hospital, we really need to know how will that person get medical treatment. See the doctor they want, and how are they going to get the prescription? How are they going to pay for it? And who is going to pay the consultant? Who would be there at night on the Christmas day? And there is this poor little guy hurt himself on a border coming back there. And a functioning hospital, you will be somebody, a consultant around or a registrar. And a consultant can actually leave home if somebody needs a critical operation. It's a 24-hour service, the hospital. Just like the police and the army, especially the police, it's 24-hour service. What we have today, if you go on a Christmas day, if you are unfortunate, we have to go to hospital, you'll not find the service because all these elements are not there. So the health service and policy is something that a country needs to design. And the way it is handled, there must be some kind of insurance contribution. Some countries, anybody, whether you work in private sector or public sector, they deduct from your salary, and that money goes to fund, the services, social services. So I can go on and on, but I'm telling you, these elements are not there. Just let me say quickly on this. Imagine if there was no car insurance industry, would it have been viable for any one of us to drive a car? Because if you drove a car and you have accident, you have to pay out of your pocket. But we all pool our insurance money together so that if, the insurers will be able to actually insure one individual, even buy them a new car. Health services are built on that. You have health insurance. Not all of us will be sick at the same time, but it is that money that will pay for your medication if you become ill. It is the one that pay the consultant enough money to do that. Extremely, it needs to be designed, for it to work. But when you say something like that, people brush it aside and they think that there is another shortcut to this, and it's not happening. Finally, and that's what I've been talking about, that University of Juba can actually help, with these ideas. We have been able to solve problems. We fought with the students to tell them they pay, and once the students start to pay, things start to happen. The classroom get maintained. They got better chairs. They got air conditions, in the room. I was in the medical student wing the other day, and I was telling guys, is it not nice? They said yes. They were revising. The air condition was on. It's your money. It's from you and to you. The same thing with medical services. People need to be forced so that they don't pay out of pocket. Now, if you go to hospital today, if you have an accident, you are going to pay an awful lot of money, which you don't have. So that is a problem. Health service is provided in a specific way, and we are not doing that at the moment. And nobody is listening. And it is not fixed by medical doctors and nurses. It's a multidisciplinary issue, especially people with organizational skills are the one that design it. And it works like a well-oiled machine if you design it well. Finally, I think
The question on
the
innovation.
question of the future of technology. Of course, we use the relevant technology. Now we are using the camera here. We will actually launch it on a YouTube channel, whatever way we do it. And it just worked the same as something recorded in London. What I can say is that there's a lot of technology around, and it's here, here in Juba, which you can use. We need to begin to use technology. The term for it is leapfrogging, basically. We need to jump the analog and to digital straight away. We don't, have to do the analog.
What areas, like it's particularly in Juba here, what areas do you think we can have a chance of leapfrogging?
Yes, I'm just giving you an example. We can use technology, say, in education, appropriate technology. Like, I'm just giving you an example. At University of Juba, we converted a store. We took things out of the store and we installed them in another space. A store that was not designed to be a lecture hall it means it's thin and long. Now, if the student sits at the back, they will not be able to hear, they will not be able to see the board. So what we did was install cameras. A camera pointed at the board and the teacher, and then two video screens, video terminals, one in the middle of the class, the other at the back. So actually, and then a sound system. So what before that, the students were cramping, to the front, and it's not very expensive. The other thing, communication technology, the Zoom, we can use it actually to actually offer distant education. I give another example, and I just spoken to you. I am also chair of South Sudan Philosophical Society at the University of Juba. It's an organization I established in 2016. And the idea is actually to be able to discuss ideas and share knowledge and grow knowledge in order to raise ethical leaders for the future. We have got funding to run a 1-year program funded by U.S. Embassy, 12 months program of lectures, public lectures on democracy, human rights, all aspects of that. And it's not about whether there's democracy in South Sudan or human rights. No, it's about how it is done in the world. So we are educating people about what is constitutions is like, what human rights are like in different societies, what are the complexities people. Now the young generation will be able to learn, and these are the future leaders. They will be able to pick the system that is good for them. So, and what we have done is that lectures are actually delivered by Zoom. We are working with U.S. Africa Institute based in Los Angeles. Sometimes the speakers could be from the Midwest or from the South, at different time zones in Juba and that. And sometimes I moderate this. There will be people attending in Samani Hall, and we have installed a system there. So you see the speaker in Midwest, in Texas, will be able to see, the students in the hall, and the student will see them, and then the student can rise up, and I'm in my office on the Zoom, and also somebody in Los Angeles, from African also moderating, and there are people contributing. We are doing this, in Juba, in 2021, 2022. What I'm saying, we use appropriate term. We can use, technologies to simplify exam processing, system. We can simplify. We can use the technology to solve crime issues. We can use technology to protect environment, for example. We can use technology in hospitals, registry. We can use technology for access to facilities.
Cool. So I would like to take the other round so that we finish up. I saw other hands, so we can. Okay, cool. Lady, maybe you can. Where's Emma? Help me here. We take a question from the lady here, and then the gent, and then there are like 2 hands there.
Professor, my name is Anita. So I have a short story to share. When I was doing my telecom engineering, after finishing, I thought of doing satellite communication. But then the money was very high for my mom to afford. So I had to go for electronics. I did it in India. So because of my good performance, I was saving money from my good performance in school, some discount of 40%. And my school fee was like $4,000. So when I was coming, because I was so passionate about this electronics and designing, I came with some stuff. And some of my Asian friends contributed some of the things. When I reached the airport, they took everything. The moment they asked me, what is this? I told them, microcontroller. They are like, you are coming to boom this country. They took everything. Everything. The resistant, in virtual instrumentation, we have the lab view where you can do whatever you want using the, the software. So they took everything. But I'm still, hoping to start this because we can do something. Even 10 years, children, they are now playing with computers, so we can discover something. So are you thinking of establishing a center or something, or can you help me get people who can help me to start, because we have to start doing something?
Professionally, I'm a finance person, but actually my interest now is on business strategy, and specifically I want to see on how cryptocurrency is going to change the business strategy. So my point here is actually we are now living in a dot-com era, whereby some people call it the fourth industrial revolution. So where there is, like what my lady is saying, Internet of Things, and there's nanotechnology, neurotechnology. So as the world is actually advancing technology-wise, it seems like our library is still in the outdated stage. So if you see all the books in the library, it's not actually the books that is supposed to be read in the current generation. So all the books that you see, almost 90% has been donated by other countries because they're actually clearing their books to Africa, and they're actually updating their library with the new books. So if you see almost all the libraries in South Sudan, you don't even see a new book that is on cryptocurrency. You don't see some good books on innovation. So my point here is, Professor, like in University, Juba University, so what best are you doing to change the image of the library in terms of the current generation right now? Thank you.
My name is Duot Deng, a university student at the University of Juba School of Law. I will ask one in the capacity of a student. Over the years, we've seen one major challenge, which is our university is not graduating students on time. And I think you've done a great job in transforming the physical and also the academic aspect in terms of the content. But something that has not yet come out, which I want to hear, is the review of the curriculum, because the curriculum is really old, the one that we are using at the university. And number two, you find that vacations are going up to 3 months, 4 months. Others can go up to 5 months. And sometimes in a year, they can only be one academic semester. So how much effort have you put on that, and what is the collaboration you're having with the rest of the university staff? I understand that the university has some sort of term limit. Suppose your term comes to an end, have you oriented others to follow on your footsteps, or once you're gone, the system goes with you? That is on that. Number two, okay, I'll be brief on this one, yeah. Yeah, number two, we've seen that over the years, our students from the secondary level are cooking results, or they are not cooking. Actually, they are being given already cooked results. What has the higher learning institutions, University of Juba being one of them, done to persuade either the Ministry of General Education or to try to change the impression from the students? I understand there was one time where the Department of Mathematics, before it became a school, conducted a high school competition. How much effort are these higher learning institutions putting into changing the norm within our secondary schools? Thank you.
He's saying there's an endemic of cheating.
Yeah, well, I think I cannot really comment on that because when there is cheating and it's proven, it means, it's dealt with. And responsibilities are actually distributed. So we cannot claim ourselves to be the vanguard of what happened in secondary education. I know people running in general education are competent individuals, and they are doing their best to make sure that actually that the integrity of our examination system. Nobody has done a study, because this is what works, to prove that these results are being cooked. So please, we cannot make generalized like that. So the students are here and are graduating, and nobody has tracked to say that those who are actually who have not making it was because they were, they got results. There's no study that has been carried. So please, unlike any other system, people go through universities, others make it. Some don't make it. When you cultivate a farm, you throw things on the ground. Others actually multiply and blossom. Others, fade away for various reasons.
But he was commenting about the stagnating processes that lead students to spend more time in university than usual.
Yes, that you can actually remind about this because he asks complex questions. Yeah. I think things have improved at University of Juba than when I came. When I came, and especially the diploma students were, they were doing one semester a year, the diploma students. The students who graduated in 2015 actually started in 2007.
Wow.
And by the time I came, they were, and the first right I got at university was coming from diploma students. They were simply, there are a large number of them, there were issues with processing exams. And if you find at the moment, you'll find that examination officers actually are resigning. They are using the system to enter the data. The system was developed by Yazid University and is still being used for processing results. And nobody knows it was part of, when we were in Khartoum. However, since I came in, things have improved. So I don't agree. The diploma students now are still few weeks behind. So everybody else now, and it is true. And that is why we are promoting students. When they got 1.5, they are promoted to the next year. Previously, University of Juba, you will actually first of all sit supplementary before you are promoted. So you must have 2 point not to graduate. But because we are going to promote you, it was something I did to solve the problem of when you actually try to process the result, including supplementary, before you, then actually will take forever. So we came up with this system whereby you carry your Fs in the next year and you go and sit supplementary in the following year. Now, COVID also made things difficult. So you remember very much with COVID, we practically lost 6 months of academic year. 6 to 8 years of COVID. There are some universities that have not actually operated for the last 2 years. There are some, and I'm not going to go into the names. But University of Juba were able to squeeze out. We lost half of academic year, 4 years to the first one, 2 months to the other one. But we're able to, if you look at that, our academic year is shifted by 6 months. The results take long to come out. Again, there is challenges of processing results. But what I can say, this has improved. Regarding the library, not only that, when I came, and maybe until now, there are books in the crates that had been donated, but there's nowhere to put it on the shelves. And we get books from Book Aid International, and these books are new. They are donations from different publishers so that we can actually, and they are brand new, and even then we tend to have challenge about the space. The library has not actually increased so much. So I have to say the situation in the University of Juba is far from perfect. And what you notice is that we are battling with just very basic things. The number of students have gone up to 29,000, and it is not easy. We have library resources. Some of it is that there was a system being developed by USID and Arizona University, whereby a small microprocessor can actually, electronic library can take up to 5,000 books, PDF that are searchable. And one, electronic library can be put here, and it actually broadcasts a Wi-Fi. So if you sit within 30 meters of that, then you have access, and you don't even need to have a Wi-Fi. It's a local hotspot. And this is what I'm saying, the technology is here. And the students also are able to access some of these libraries. Now, there's a human element of organizing things. You know, VC cannot do things alone. If you notice now, we have a very good website. And I struggled since 2014, to have a website. In Khartoum, when I was, around 2007, 2008, and 9, I was the website supervisor. And I worked with one of my students. We have a very good website for University of Juba. But then when we came here, I went to University of Northern Bargaza from 2010. I came back 2014. By the way, I was the first vice chancellor of that university, which never got funded. Now the website went down, but I should be struggling. Now if you look up uoj.edu.ss, it's actually very informative. And we have our Facebook, and soon we'll have our Instagram and Twitter. Again, if I sit down, I can do, but one of the people working on that is a young person who got trained in India. And he developed a website for University of Juba for his project. It's, based on JavaScript and all the whistle and things. He showed it to me, and I employed him. And I make sure that, he's paid enough to stay around, and he stay around. He's the one now responsible for ID production in the staff club. And we even pay his rent, which is in dollars, so that he doesn't go away. So there are so many things, but it is the people, innovators who are working in those departments that can pull solutions out. The VC alone cannot have magic wand. I really need also human resource to push different aspects, Regarding the electronics lab and so on, we have a STEM center. You can get my contact from Nelson, and you can try to connect with us. If you are passionate, we can give you a job at the STEM center to
develop some of this.
To do something. The STEM center is a donation. If you go to, if you are going to Nyakuran, there's a computer lab on the right. And the way that's going to run, that building fence is called University of Juba STEM and Vocation Center. There's electronic lab there, there's physics lab, there's optics lab. We'll soon have a material fabrication lab. It's run by solar, but also we have power there. We want to, the shed that you see, we want to build automotive, workshop for training. And the STEM center is to be used by schools. So we send people from schools to go there and build things and do program and play with stuff to make small projects. And we are planning to have a kind of national exhibitions, technology exhibition, where they can have projects that they can show, and we have competition.
Thank you so much for this elaborate answer. And I also want to thank our audience here for your time. And I think that really sticks in my head, the last statement. It's really about the human resource. It's about the people, because it's the people that make the change. Even this place, I found that this place like a year and a half or 2 years now. When we started, I used to be the one connecting the things. I used to be the one running stuff here. But now there is a lady who is manager of everything here. She knows when there is an event like this, there is someone who knows where the sound system is, where the food, where the what. And I think that's what makes everything works. And I really couldn't be more thankful to you for donating your time to us here, engaging with this audience. A lot of tough questions. I would just want to hear from you if you have any closing remarks to the students here. And I know your time is very much limited. This video will be available online. Those who did not manage to ask questions, please engage through comments and the rest. And I think there are different forums that we can meet at. But we want to hear from you if you have any closing remarks, anything, any pending ideas that you want us to live with.
Yes, I really want to appreciate, hosting me here, and to be able to talk to a lot of very talented young people. I think this is a great future for our country. The future belongs to the young, basically, whether we like it or not. I want to, something that I skipped about who, in case when my term comes to an end, whether I'm preparing, my succession. I think I have been building teams, a team, senior management team, a good team for the deans and so on. And these are individuals who are actually making the university tick, And I hope that we are establishing a culture of innovation, a culture of questioning whatever it is, and finding different solutions. There is no one size fits all solution. There is no one single way of doing things. Everything can be questioned. That is the kind of culture I'm building, being transparent and trying to inform the public about what is going on in universities through social media, and being transparent in finances at the university, sharing financial reports with the deans, sharing financial reports with the council of university, and even saying how much we earned last year and the year before, how much we spent, so the public actually get to know something. So this is what I hope, that we are creating a culture. And culture is a way of doing things. And that way of doing things lives beyond the current leaders. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Let's give a round of applause. The professor has another meeting to catch up with. People usually want to take one or two photos. But thank you so much. And some of the the lady who regarding the contact, I will put you in touch. And there are a few people here who want to do a follow-up. I think we can just reach out to me, and then we can be able to do that. And hopefully, next time, we'll be able to do even a bigger town hall at the university, or to bring more people, especially industry. One of the things that I wanted to do here is to bring more industry leaders, like these people who run, like the manager of the World Bank here, people who run Cooperative Bank, people who run industries in this country, to bring them here so that they can also give you thought in terms of how, because in other countries in the West, industry and academia are very close. The University of Tel Aviv make their biggest money from R&D and equity, because they have a startup thing. When the company is created there, the university says we need 20%. So it reaches a time where the university, one of these companies is $1 billion company. The University of Tel Aviv is getting millions of dollars every year, patents and stuff like that. But here the chasm between academia and industry need to be reduced. I think you're doing a lot of that, and us, we want to push from outside so that we have a melting pot where these two kind of can marry, two and more. I mean, they're like creatives, and all this also need to come together. So thank you so much, everyone, for coming here. I know some of you came for the first time. You stuck around with us until a late time. Thank you so much. You can reach out to me at Nelson Kwaje on Twitter or on Facebook, and then we can take it up from there. Okay, thanks.
Thank you.